Let's get it going on the Lockdown Thunder live show. I'm your host, me member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI.com, Rylan Stiles, joined as always by Derek Parker as we break down the week that was and the week that will be on our Monday live stream every week, Monday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time, live here on YouTube, available on your podcast feeds afterward on the Lockdown Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Derek Parker, of course, you can find both of us over there at OKC Dream Team. You can find him on YouTube, Derek-Parker, also on Thunder on SI. Derek, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. No mic mishaps this week. We're fresh off 5 Thanksgivings. I'm feeling great.
Dude, you crushed it over the Thanksgiving season. Nobody did more and better Thanksgiving festivities than you. But we're back Monday, Thursday, 2 p.m. Central as a part of the Lockdown Podcast Network and the Lockdown Thunder feed. And we have a loaded week for you here on Lockdown Thunder. On today's show, we've already recapped that Jazz game on the Daily Show. We're doing this 2 p.m. live stream right now. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by Brendan Rabar to list out the contenders in the NBA, plus have our squad show at 3:30. And then on the 10th, we'll have the biggest storylines of the season so far with Nick Crane. On the 11th, we've got the Suns recap, the 2 p.m. live show here with Derek Parker, and the squad show following that at 3:30. And then on Friday, we end the week with Justin Martinez of the Oklahoman, and we're going to recap whatever happens throughout the next few days of this NBA Cup. So a jam-packed week for you on Lockdown Thunder, 10 pods again this week. And if you're an everydayer who never misses an episode, it's time to make that official. Join the Lockdown Everydayer Club. You get ad-free audio. You get access to our members-only Discord where you're going to be in there with me talking about these games as they happen. I'll be answering your questions. We'll be talking back and forth on Discord. You also can sign up and get emails and get my subtext communications and so much more, including bonus shows, all built for our most loyal fans. Check it out today and learn more for our new Everydayer Club launching today. Go there right now to lockdownpodcast.com/Everydayer Club and sign up today. Derek, another 3-0 week for the Thunder. They sit now at 23-1. They are 1 win away if they can beat the Suns to go 24-1 and match that Warriors start to the 2015-16 season. And we have some takeaways from this week that saw them beat the Warriors, Mavericks, and Jazz. What's your biggest takeaway from this week?
Yeah, this is a season that has already been defined by defense for the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's no surprise. They have one of, if not the greatest defenses of all time. My takeaway lies in the offense. Counting 4 games, there were only 3 last week, but dating back 4 games, they are averaging 127.5 points per game, which is a scary prospect for the rest of the league when you think about this Thunder team figuring it out on offense. They still, as of this live stream, have not had their core 5 starters together with everyone healthy. This is a team that continues to battle injury, and yet they're finding ways to score the basketball. 131 points versus Utah, a porous defense to say the least, but still, this is with no Shea. This is with other guys out, Lou Dort, Hartenstein, Caruso. 132 points versus Dallas. That was a Dallas team that had previously been playing pretty good defense. 124 versus Golden State, 123 versus a good Portland defense. They're figuring things out on offense. It's flowing. They're hitting shots from the outside, which wasn't happening in those first couple of games. They've obviously figured out how to get back into a rhythm and a groove from beyond the arc. So this Thunder offense, watch out for it, because defense, talk of the town rightfully, but the Thunder getting better every day.
The Thunder continues to improve, and I'll have a lot on that Thunder offense. I'll start with Cason Wallace. I think that he's made a leap this season, and it hasn't been loud, but it's been important. And it hasn't been the leap that Jalen Johnson has made, 30, 12, and 12 the other night on Saturday. And, of course, he got all-star buzz last year and has returned to form this year coming off of an injury. And we always want to, and we always expect, frankly, leaps to mean like going to all-star status, going up a tier. But with Cason, his leap has happened in the course of this team, in the course of what the Thunder need out of him to be a better product, what the Thunder need out of him to be a better roster, to be a better postseason threat. Even though they won the championship last year, having to go to 2 7-game series, how can you improve? How can you avoid those scary scenarios? It's by this version of Cason. He is an electrifying elite defender. He is a lock for the all defensive team right now. And when you look at Cason Wallace, he's shooting 37% on three, second best of his career. But most importantly, he's shooting 45% in the corner, a career high for him. And he's tied with last year's rim finishing at 66. If he can get back to his rookie number at the rim of 73%, he truly becomes lethal. But with Cason, you know what he is defensively. You've seen him shut down the best of the best in the NBA throughout this season. If he can consistently hit these gimme shots, that he gets these wide open corner threes generated for him nonstop, given the Thunder's offense that you mentioned, then you really look at a guy who can transform the Thunder's offense from what they were last postseason, 13th out of 16 in three-point percentage a year ago in the playoffs. Their half-court offense was messy at times. He helps clean that up. I think he's made a leap.
Yeah, to tie both of our first takeaways together, I talked about the three-point shooting a little bit. You talked about Cason. Cason was a guy who we were looking at in the early stages of the season of, is he a real shooter? There were some concerns in terms of volume and percentages. He wasn't necessarily hitting shots, and we were like, well, he's seen a really good three-point shooting season. He's seen a so-so three-point shooting. Where is he going to level out? And I think the answer is clear. He has leveled out at a better percentage on the most volume he's ever taken, 38% from 4 attempts. So Cason Wallace, the shooter, I think is here to stay. I think that was clear via his Kentucky tenure, his first couple seasons with Oklahoma City, and especially now in his third season. My next takeaway, I talked about the injuries in the first one. This undermanned Oklahoma City team is simply better than a lot of teams across this league. And the rebuttal to that would be, yes, they beat the Jazz without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Of course, like the Jazz are not a stellar team. They were missing Lauri Markkanen. They're young. Everybody saw the Hardy clips of him coaching. The Jazz aren't great, but also this is a Thunder team that is just historically dominant. Like we talk about the defense that makes their floor so high on any given night. There's a chance, and I'm not saying it's all going to be without Shai, but there's a chance this team is just this good and just this capable of winning on a nightly basis, no matter who is in the lineup. Like we've seen Chet miss huge stretches of his career. Didn't really matter. They went and got the 1 seed. We've seen Jaylen Williams miss the early parts of this season. Didn't really matter. They got off to another historic start. We've seen Shai exit for 1 game now, and they got up by 42 points at one point. Like this Thunder system just transcends who is on the court. Mark Daigneault has a phenomenal game plan each night of both preparing and then helping these guys when they're actually in the middle of it. Are they going to go and beat the Lakers without Shai? No, probably not. But this is a team that very truly could go beat a lot of teams without their best player, without their second and third best players at times. And that is just speaking to how good they are, because again, 23-1 is unbelievable, but the way that they're doing this is just absurd.
Yeah, I think that they continue to really impress, especially whenever you factor in the fact that they didn't have Shai on Sunday. I know that it was the Jazz, and that was not going to happen. Like Shai has to be there for this team to be historically great. He has to be there for this team to win a championship. But you can get by on any given night without Shai because of the depth of this roster. And I think that with this team, you're seeing them be able to play to their identity no matter what. And it's truly plug and play. It's truly next man up. It is the embodiment of what every sports team wants to be. Every team throughout every sport preaches that same mentality. The Thunder can execute that. Obviously, they're at their best when they are healthy, much like every other team. But it's not a lost cause, for example, when you don't see SGA in the lineup. And, I think that Sunday was a dramatized version of that. But still, you can find ways to keep Shai fresh throughout the season because of it. We'll talk about Shai coming up, missing that game. But I want to talk about Chet Holmgren, who is really flashing his potential to be an elite two-way player. And it goes from everything from attacking mismatches, scoring inside, putting the ball on the deck and getting to the rim. His post scoring is a lot better in terms of his face-up ability. And you saw yesterday just rolling off of Ace Bailey to the baseline off of the entry pass and slamming it home for the and one. And you look at Chet's numbers. I mean, we've gone a quarter of the season. We're growing and growing in sample size, and his numbers remain at the high end. He's in the 87th percentile at the rim, shooting 79%. He's in the 83rd percentile in the mid-range, shooting 55%. He's shooting 36% from three at the 61th percentile in the NBA. I think that the three-point shot stands to reason to get better, considering that he's been better than this both of the last 2 years of his career. And this guy can really make an impact offensively. And what's most encouraging, though, And to tie this into your takeaway, even as the Thunder have been shorthanded, and you see a guy like Chet have the best start to his career offensively, it's not been because he's in a different role. He's playing the same style that they're going to need him to play as a play finisher, as a guy who is benefiting from cuts and rolls to the rim, as a guy who is benefiting from attacking closeouts when he gets the ball thrown to him at the top of the key and at the perimeter. Like, those are all the same things that is going to keep him at this level when this team is fully healthy. It's not as though he's just finding immense success as a true isolation guy, and those touches won't be there once they're fully healthy. He's doing things that will remain available to him when this team is fully healthy, and that's why his offense is so encouraging to start this season. And we know who he is defensively. Even last year, after he fractured his hip, folks, and returned quicker than they thought, but returned and played from February 7th to the end of the playoff run, even last year, he was still elite defensively, and you don't win that Indiana series without his defense. We know who he is on that end of the floor. If he's this version offensively for the entire season and in the postseason, you're talking about a two-way guy. You're talking about a two-way star.
I agree. I'm obviously on record plenty of times for the people that join us often, loving Chet Holmgren's game. Agree with everything you said there. I also want to say what he did against Utah. If you go and just watch the highlights, the clips of his 25-point game against the Jazz last night, he did superstar stuff often. Like, what he was doing at 7 foot, handling the ball, that has been a little bit of a thorn in his side for his first few seasons in terms of losing the handle, turning the ball over a little bit more. It was as tight as could be last night, and he just did everything. He got it going in the mid-range. He hit threes. He was great around the rim. He deterred shots, didn't necessarily block a prolific amount of shots, but I think Chet Holmgren's trending toward being an all-star. I don't know if you would agree with that.
I do.
Yeah, so Chet, unbelievable, just continues to be a incredible 7-foot addition to this team. My last takeaway, we talk about 23-1. We talk about this all-time defense. Karama's mentioned in the chat, 15-game winning streak, longest in franchise history. My takeaway doesn't have anything to do with that because the Clippers are in danger of hoisting a top 3 pick to the Thunder. And while you and me have both been a little bit hesitant to say it's actually going to land there, like, we do think teams are going to probably pass the Clippers at some point in terms of draft odds, which is still possible. I'm ready to say that Oklahoma City is going to have a legit chance at a top 3 pick, accounting for the flattened odds. In 2025, the Mavericks jumped 10 spots. The Spurs jumped 6. In 24, the Hawks jumped 9 spots. The Rockets jumped 6. In 2020, the Hornets jumped 5 spots. In 2019, the Pelicans jumped 6. Grizzlies jumped 6. And the Hawks jumped 7. The Clippers are a legitimately bad basketball team, so there's already a chance that their odds are in the top 5. Even if teams do pass them, accounting for the new flattened draft odds, which I guess aren't new anymore, we're going on year 6 now, there's a chance that they jump up anyway. So I think people need to start doing their due diligence with some of these top prospects, because it seems like, for all intents and purposes, LA is about to hand Oklahoma City a top 5 pick, or, newsflash, drastically worse, a top 7 pick, which is still going to yield an awesome player in this draft.
Yeah, it certainly will. And I think that it just continues to show the flexibility in this team, the optionality that they have in terms of how they're going to navigate these waters with their roster. And they're going to have a great pick. And you mentioned the teams leaping up. It's a double whammy for Oklahoma City. You look at Utah, and you beat Utah last night, and so that gives them a loss, and that helps them try to keep their top 8 protected pick. But they are still in this range where it's possible for them to get leaped and be pushed back to 9. They're only with the 8th best lottery odds in the NBA right now, and with the tie between Brooklyn and Sacramento, probably more so 9 best lottery odds in the NBA right now. And if you see a team leap up, it pushes that Utah pick back, which then pushes it away from that protection for Utah with the top 8 protected pick. So it is just going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. I think that you're 100% right. And the Thunder, in the meantime, while having their hand in the draft pot, they also have tied their franchise-long 15-game winning streak. They can beat that record on Wednesday in what's been a record-breaking week. I mean, they broke the record for most threes in a quarter with 11. They broke the record for most assists in a quarter with with the mark that they had yesterday in the opening frame. And a part of that was Jaylen Williams. My third takeaway is that J-Dub has improved as a player. I don't know if you agree that his handling has gotten better. I think that his ball handling has been better. His passing certainly has been. And this is a guy who every game since his return has had 5+ assists in each and every game. We know he's an elite defender. He made all defense last year, and his efficiency came back against Utah, which we called on last week's show, that he was doing everything right except finding the bottom of the net, and you were not going to keep that aspect from his game away for long. On Sunday against Utah, his efficiency turned back to normal, and I think that you're seeing the start of Jaylen Williams not just breaking out this year, but showing you that even he has experienced some internal improvement on this roster. What the Thunder have baked their whole offseason into is internal improvement. And you go down the list of these 3 takeaways, it's Cason, Chet, and J-Dub, all who we can earmark and point to exact improvements that they've made.
Yeah, I think Jaylen Williams is certainly getting his sea legs back under him. The handling, I'm not quite there with you. Like, I don't know if it looks improved relative to last year. I think it certainly looks improved relative to like game 1 of this year. Like, he's absolutely getting better each game. There's still just a few times per game where like he simply loses the ball. I think it's probably just like he's talked about his wrist is not just like an overnight fix. Like, this is something that he's working back from continuously. I think he'll absolutely get back to having the same level of handle that he did last year. As a playmaker, you touched on it. He has been so good. Like last night, I believe it was 8 assists to 0 turnovers. He is slashing and spraying pretty often. He's got the 2-man game going with Chet Holmgren. Hasn't even played with Hartenstein yet. They had a great 2-man game last year. So Jaylen Williams off to another phenomenal start. His stats don't look that much worse than they did last year in his all-star campaign, which is great considering, again, he's coming back from injury and his wrist probably does not feel 100% or even close to it right now. So the fact he's making this big of an impact for this Thunder team is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think that with J-Dub, you're looking at a guy who has made an improvement. I think that his handle has gotten better in the sense of his pace whenever he's trying to attack the basket and how he's using the crossovers and the behind the back moves to set up defenses and then burst to the rim, kind of playing at his own pace. And so I think that he's gotten better. Chet's gotten better. Cason's gotten better. This team's gotten better. And they are sitting pretty right now, even as SGA missed his first game of the season. He has that elbow bursitis injury, which it's a wide range of outcomes for what that injury in particular means. He's been playing with that tape on his elbow, I believe, since that Memphis game. At least he was for sure having it in that Memphis game. I think that was his first game that he had it, was in Memphis. And who knows? We don't know anything yet until the injury report comes out tomorrow night for Wednesday's game of like what this means for Shai. Just guessing, like a legit guess, is I think that this was a great spot, if nothing else, for a rest opportunity for Shai, because you look at the schedule and how it opens up. Come Wednesday, he'll play in his second game in 7 days. And win, lose, or draw, right? Like they're going to play on Saturday or Friday. And if they lose Saturday and don't play in the Cup Championship, that's 3 games in 9 days that you're going to have off for SGA, because you won't play again until that Clippers game on Wednesday. Of course, if they make the championship of the Cup, then that Clippers game will get postponed for a day or 2, or 3, considering the not wanting to have a back-to-back after the Cup Championship. But I think that this is, if nothing else, a good spot for Shai to rest, and then we'll just have to see if it's something more than that at the injury report on Tuesday. Not a ton to go off of right now.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Again, complete speculation. We don't have the injury report yet, but I would imagine this was just a good spot to get Shai some rest, maybe deal with something that's kind of flared up a little bit in the midseason. Had this been like the first day of the playoffs, I'm pretty sure we would have seen Shai out there. But again, that's just conjecture. We're not totally sure. I would expect to see Shai here in the coming weeks. So especially as NBA Cup play ramps up. We've got a bunch of draft questions here in the chat. Should we hit these up?
We should. Let's start with a non-draft question. Dennis says, Oos had a good game. Are you still feeling good with no stock in him? Yes, folks. Listen, I don't want to poop on anyone's parade, right? I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. But the Oos game on Sunday, the Carlson game on Sunday, it's great for those guys, man. These guys put in the work, the invisible work, as Mark would call it. Like, they have a lot in store. I was talking to Brooks Barnheiser on Thursday with the Blue game, and he was talking about how, like, the work that he puts in to get J-Dub ready to play, after practices, after shoot-arounds, and on top of Brooks's workload of preparing himself as a player and playing for the Blue and playing for the Thunder, he's also helping out Jaylen Williams in his rehab process. So these guys put in so much work that goes beyond what you see on game days. And so for them to have games like Sunday, you got to feel really good for them as people and for them as players. However, it's nothing to change your opinion on after the Sunday game. Like Brendan Carlson, for example, I know that every time he has a remotely good game, people are ready to crown him as like a future rotational piece. Brendan Carlson is an elite player in his role of being a two-way big man. You cannot find a better two-way big than Brendan Carlson for a guy who on a two-way contract, you can think back to memories with him. How many memories do you have pressed between the pages of your mind with other two-way players? You have the two with Brendan Carlson of last night and the game last year against Cleveland at home. And for two-way standards, like that is above and beyond what you would expect from a two-way player. And that's awesome. And Brendan Carlson deserves all the credit in the world for that. It's not like all of a sudden now he's going to be a true piece for the Thunder. Ousmane Dieng has been a guy who has seen his stock rise and fall, has seen the perception of him rise and fall, ebb and flow. He hasn't put together a consistent stretch of basketball, and that's been the biggest hindrance to himself. And I think that in this season, he's been better than years past at getting the spot minutes whenever this team's been shorthanded and making an impact. However, the overarching point still remains that for the Thunder in particular, and this is why it's always been so carefully warded by you and I, for the Thunder in particular, there's no really role for him here. Like he needs to be traded at the deadline to see what he is somewhere else where he can get an expanded opportunity at the NBA level. Because there's also nothing left for him to do in the G League either. Like he goes down there and dominates every single time he's assigned down there. And like, what do you have to show for it so far? So I'm not out on Ous as a player, period. I just don't think that, Sunday's game means now all of a sudden he's like what the Thunder were envisioning when they drafted him in the lottery and what the Thunder are going to be envisioning in him moving forward. So we'll see what happens with Ous going forward, but I'm not buying stock in Ous after Sunday's game.
I will say, I agree with you in that the Thunder did not have this vision of Ousmane Dieng when they took him 11th overall, but the fact that their, supposed whatever best player on the team is able to play these spot minutes, he's been pretty decent in limited minutes in the last couple of weeks, is fine. Is that fine for a lottery pick who is supposed to have this high ceiling? That's not what people want probably, but if you take the context out of Ousmane Dieng's development and the fact that they've poured several years into him, I think he's been a pretty solid player this season, which is great for Ousmane Dieng because I think eventually, you touched on, that could lend itself to being that elsewhere on a potentially less historically dominant roster.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the draft questions now, and that also brings the point up about Ous of, you've got to find the roster spots from somewhere with however many picks you want to keep from this haul that the Thunder potentially have this season. So that's a big deal. And like ideally, yeah, if Ous can parlay this success on Sunday and the betterment that he's had on the court throughout the start of this season and become a consistently fine rotational piece, then you've got yourself a really cheap option because while he's due for a new contract, he will not have a big enough sample size come July in the new CBA to warrant anything substantial on the market to where you could technically like bring him back on a very cheap contract. So it's a win-win-win scenario, much like all other scenarios for Oklahoma City. But again, they have to get roster spots from somewhere. Ous makes a lot of sense. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Ous be traded at the deadline and you convert Brendan Carlson to a standard contract just to add more depth to your front court, a position that could be, knock on wood, like, attacked harder than other positions on this roster. So you want to ensure yourself there potentially, but we'll have to see how this all unfolds for OKC. But the draft pick stuff is very interesting. Let's start with Coach David says, question for you both. Do you think that the Thunder trade the Sixers pick to get more picks? The Sixers pick presently sits at the 17th, 18th range in the draft at 13 and 10. They've gone 5-5 over their last 10 games. How are you feeling about this pick? But let's parlay this into like the Rockets pick as well. The Rockets, of course, off to a much better start this season to where that pick's only at 26. Like, what do you feel about these picks that are non-lottery?
Yeah, Logan asked about the Clippers pick, and then James, I agree with his response. We would keep the top tier pick, we being the Thunder, trade out of non-lottery picks. That's about how I feel about the 76ers pick, the Rockets pick that you touched on. If they really do land somewhere in the top 5 to 7 range with the Clippers, and then potentially, let's maybe say the Jazz actually do finish below 9 and they end up with the 9th, 10th pick, then I think you're looking at a scenario where you do kick the 76ers one down the road, you kick the Rockets one down the road. I think it makes sense to kind of span your picks over the next few years, opposed to taking 4 players from this draft where you've already got this loaded championship level roster. I think it certainly makes sense to kick it down the road. Now, if Utah's doesn't convey and the Rockets fall to 11 or something like that, and then maybe you could use the 76ers one to package it to go up. Maybe you still kick it down the road. There's so many options. The good news is that the Thunder are one of the best drafting teams in the NBA. So if there is a player in that range that they like, there's a good chance they're just going to take the swing because they don't miss a whole lot. They haven't in the last several years. So there's no reason not to use it if you've got the roster space, which you touched on might be an issue.
Yeah, and the Thunder have always gotten creative with how they handle their roster moves. So I think that if they had hypothetically 3 lottery picks and liked 3 players in the lottery, they just go ahead and draft those guys, I think, and figure the rest out later. However, these picks that are non-lottery, in particular that Houston pick, which is guaranteed to be not lottery at this point, I think that you will see them pull off a move similarly to what they did with Nate Clifford's pick, in last draft, and what you've seen them do in years prior. Like you go back and look at the Peyton Watson draft pick for Denver, and you got a Denver 2032 pick from Denver, or 2030 at that time, and you also have their 2032 pick now, but 2030 pick, for Peyton Watson, because you kick that can down the road and you envision that, you'd rather reload your draft stash and your draft assets for the future when things can be at more of a crunch financially and you need that cost control talent down the road. And there's going to be so many teams who are already at that mode right now. Like right now, teams would be, I think, desperate to get into the first round because of what that entails. Hey, if we can just hit this pick, then we're going to bring in a guy who's very cheap and can help us navigate through the second aprons, the hard caps, and all that goes along with that. So I think that the Thunder will have value in trading away some of these first round picks either on draft day or right before draft day, once the dust kind of settles here. But I do think that they'll walk away with a couple of picks in this draft, which is going to be very fun because they also have 2 lottery picks who haven't logged a minute yet in Topic and Sorber, to kind of move forward. 2 top 15 picks, I guess I should say, and not lottery picks. But coming up, where we were right, where we were wrong last week, and let's preview NBA Cup week. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, here talking with Derek Parker every Monday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Central, live on the Locked On Thunder YouTube page and uploaded to your favorite podcasting platform after the fact. Derek, we have another week to review from where we were right, where we were wrong, much more right than wrong this week. We both had the best game as the Warriors game. It ended up being true. We both had the most boring game as the Jazz game. It ended up being true. We both had the Thunder going 3-0. It ended up being true. You had Shea playing in 1 fourth quarter. That was right. I had Shea playing in no fourth quarter, so that was wrong. And then you had AD as the most interesting opposing player. And given his scoring drought, given how hard it was to score a bucket, I think of all the opposing players who created a storyline against OKC, it's either Pat Spencer or it's AD. And for me, I'm going to lean AD because that became more granular in terms of how many people were talking about it. So I'm going to go AD as the most interesting player and give you that win on the right column here, for that one. I was right saying that the talks would heat up about the Thunder chasing the Warriors record, now 1 win away from going 24-1 with the Suns on deck in the NBA Cup. Like that's been something that you've already seen starting on Monday. I think that that'll only grow to promote that Cup game throughout this week. And then Nerdy Basketball Watch, Ryan Nimhard. I mean, the shots he was hitting, I'm going to consider that to be right. And then we both were wrong on thinking that the Mavs would keep it close. They certainly did not.
A decent week, I would say, for us. Now, again, don't want to give too much away, but we have some pretty differing takes in the upcoming predictions, and I got a little out there. But yeah, I mean, we're not just absolute gurus. I mean, some of these takes were easy. I mean, the Thunder 3-0. Who would have thunk it that this historically dominant team would win basketball games? But yeah, decent week for the duo here.
Very good week. Quick question from the chat. Thunderfan71 says, what happened to the Locked On Western Conference Squad Show? It was replaced by the Locked On Thunder Squad Show with Jeremy Lamb and Tyler Jones and myself every Tuesday and Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, live here on YouTube and on your podcasting platform afterward. Now, this week is crazy because technically speaking, the Thunder only have one game for sure scheduled, and it's Wednesday against the Suns. Now, if they win, they'll play the winner of Spurs Lakers on Saturday in Vegas. If they lose, they'll play the loser of Spurs Lakers to make up their 82nd game of the season. So the weekly superlatives, we get to have a little bit of leeway here with how we answer the questions because we could all have different answers of how the schedule will end up playing out. Now, the best game on the schedule for both of us is the Lakers. If you get to that Lakers matchup by hook or by crook, whether both teams win or both teams lose, it creates the best potential matchup of anything that is available to Oklahoma City, given that the Spurs don't have Wemby.
100%. I think a lot of people anticipate the Lakers to beat the Spurs. I think a lot of people anticipate the Thunder to beat the Suns. So it seems like we are heading toward a potential Thunder-Lakers showdown. You have it as the best game in theory. I have it as the best game. I think it's going to happen. And rightfully so. You know, this is a superstar-laden game. If Shea plays, you got Luka and AR on the other side. LeBron is back and working his way back into game form. The Lakers quietly, maybe not quietly, actually, quietly for Oklahoma standards, shooting up the NBA standings right now. They sit at number 2. They have surpassed the Denver Nuggets at 17-6, both 5.5 games back from OKC. The Lakers are interesting. You know, the Thunder kind of put the smackdown on them already, but I think they're a better team than they were just by the addition of LeBron. And also, I think they're just playing better basketball. They play good fourth quarter defense for the lack of the other 3 quarters. They have a good offense, obviously, with Luka and Austin Reeves getting to the foul line a lot. They can create their own shot. They can spray. So much offensive versatility between those two, not to mention the other pieces that they've got around there. So the Lakers, I mean, interesting matchup.
The Lakers will be pretty interesting. And I think that when you look at this Thunder team, just to tie in how great that they are and why the NBA would be salivating over having this option. If the Thunder win, they'd be 24-1. So that's a massive storyline. The Lakers by themselves are a massive storyline with, you know, Luka, LeBron, Reeves, and the potential of them, you know, beating OKC in a one-off game would lead to massive fallout from the rest of the media conglomerate. We'll talk about that coming up. But the Thunder also, breaking news here, folks, they just had 3 players nominated for the Player of the Week award in the West. It ended up being Jamal Murray who won the award, but Shea, Chet, and J-Dub, all 3 were nominated for the Western Conference Player of the Week award, which is just insane. It just truly spectacular for Oklahoma City. But best game, Lakers, if it happens. Most boring game, it's Suns by default, with the likelihood of no Booker becoming a reality here as we inch towards his reevaluation date with no clear determination of like if he's going to play or not. So it's the Suns right now, because I think that even if it's the Spurs matchup for the Thunder one way or the other, even without Wemby, the Spurs just kind of repertoire of young players and their identity can be interesting to see how they match up with the Thunder. We haven't seen it yet this season, and if we got it this week, we get it 3 times in a month. Another team who will be 3 times in a month for the Thunder to start this season. But right now, I mean, the Suns without Booker just doesn't move me at all, Derek.
Yeah, and again, he'll be reevaluated on NBA Cup Day. That doesn't mean he'll play on NBA Cup Day, but like you said, it's by default. If they have 2 games and one of them could be the Lakers or it could be a spunky Spurs team, then the other one's going to be the Phoenix Suns, which is their current only for sure matchup. But I will say, this is a Suns team that you and I watched close up a week or so ago. They're fun. They play great defense. They're kind of the rising darling of this NBA season, I would say, at least in the West. And this is going to be Dillon Brooks' Super Bowl. We talked about Dillon Brooks within the last couple of weeks. We've been pretty complimentary of just his kind of grit and intensity. He is going to bring it. Like, regardless of whether the Thunder are up 40, whether it's a close game, 0-0, Dillon Brooks is going to be out there and he's going to be giving it his all. So I don't think it's going to be a boring game. It just happens to be the most boring between 2.
Yeah, we'll get to more Dillon Brooks thoughts in just a moment. But the best storyline in a game for me This is a little bit of a caveat here. And this is like a high risk, high reward move by me because it takes a lot to happen. The Thunder would have to match up with the Spurs or Lakers, which they're going to win or lose, whoever they play. And then they'd have to get beat by the Spurs or Lakers. But if the Spurs or Lakers beat OKC, in particular, if the Lakers really beat OKC, it opens up, wrongfully so, but it opens up a big conversation about how the Lakers are legit and the Thunder are vulnerable. And it's possible that we see Luka, possible that we see LeBron and Reeves and Ayton and these guys match up with OKC. You saw this play out already, folks. You go back to the Bucks Cup championship game. Oh, see, the Thunder lost. Like they can't do it in big moments when the game slows down. Then you play playoff level basketball. I mean, the Lakers blitz OKC in a meaningless game in April, and it's like, okay, well, the Lakers are now going to beat OKC and dethrone them. Neither team makes it out of the first round. So again, it's going to be a wrongful storyline, but I think that it will be a big storyline if it were to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I have a little tidbit on that later in our predictions. I think the biggest storyline from a positive perspective, at least, would be the potential tying of the Warriors 24-1 record. The Warriors obviously went 24-0, eventually lost. The Thunder 23-1 right now with the with the loss to Portland being their only loss. So I think should they beat the Suns, which would push them to 24-1, that would be a pretty big storyline because we're already talking about all this historic stuff that they're doing. They're kind of pushing the envelope toward this like eventual talking about the Warriors 2015 season and this Thunder season. So I think that will be one of the bigger milestones. Again, for better or worse, I'm not necessarily saying this should be the talking point, but I think that will be a storyline of, hey, the Thunder are 24-1, last team to do that. Pretty good.
So I'm going to tie my nerdy basketball watch of the week and most interesting opponent together, and you can rapid fire yours as well after this, but mine play off of one another. The nerdy basketball watch is the Suns because they were locked in for 48 minutes. They were excellent defensively. We spent the preview of that game on that Monday show glowing about the Suns being a top 12 defense in the league and how great they've been on that end of the floor. Then they proved it on that Friday game where even though the Thunder made a great run in the third quarter, great run to start the fourth quarter, the Suns never went away. They kept it competitive to the bitter end. The botched inbound almost cost OKC at the end of that contest. And can they sustain that? Can they do it yet again when the Thunder are going to adjust, when the Thunder are going to be able to know what's coming? Can the Suns get up and play that level of defense again, even whenever the offense might be messy at times without Devin Booker, which leads me to my most interesting opposing player, which is Dillon Brooks. You know he's going to have some antics in this game. And if Devin Booker's not playing, you're going to get a lot of Dillon Brooks. And as we know, less is more when it comes to Dillon Brooks. And so I think that he could shoot the Suns out of this game. I think that he could be a big reason why the Suns would lose. And I just want to see how he performs against OKC on Wednesday with or without Booker, but especially without Booker.
Yeah, my nerdy basketball watch too is the Suns. You know, you had to give them a little credit. We talked about this team is better than boring, certainly. So I have Colin Gillespie as my player to watch. He's been en fuego over the last few weeks. He's a legitimate guy in this here NBA. And I'm excited to watch him again because he was a handful for the Thunder last time. And this is a team that has legitimate defensive weapons. So, I mean, this Thunder defense is a litmus test for so many guys across the league, but especially guys like this who you're kind of testing the waters in terms of, is this a legit guy? Like, is he going to be able to keep up this production? And doing it against the Thunder on a stage like this is absolutely a litmus test for that.
I agree.
And then moving on to the most interesting player, I have Austin Reeves. I touched on him earlier. He's playing at like a legitimate all-NBA pace right now. The whistle is involved a little bit. He's getting downhill a lot. He drives. He's crafty, though, in the same way Shea is. Like, it's very much a positive thing when he gets to the line. Like, he knows what he's doing. He has so much craft, handle, pace, ability, all that stuff. So 28 points, 6.7 assists. He's shooting 37% from beyond the arc, 51% from three. In the exact same breath as the Colin Gillespie stuff, the Thunder made Austin Reeves look like not an all-star when they played together. So I'm curious to see if AR can bounce back against this Thunder team and what happens. Because, again, it's a litmus test, not only for we know Austin Reeves is a legit guy. Is he a star? Like, is he going to be able to do this in the postseason? And I think this potential matchup with the Lakers, again, may not even happen, but if it does, this could be a decent sign into whether he could see postseason success. Like, for all intents and purposes, this is a quasi postseason matchup.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to watch these teams do work. And so we get to our record predictions. I'm going to go 2-0, Derek. And I know that there could be some whistles at play. And let's be very fair. If you do believe in the league rigging stuff and the league having preferred outcomes, the preferred outcome is clearly Thunder Lakers. It is not Spurs Suns. It's not even Lakers Suns. It is clearly Thunder and Lakers, and they want to make this cup really work. So, but there could be some Laker whistle. That happens whether it's a meaningful game or not. The Lakers get a favorable whistle. That's why they lead the league in free throws all the time. But I'm still going to go 2-0 for OKC. It just seems like the default answer at this point until proven otherwise. So there's not really a ton of kind of merit behind it. I'm just going to go 2-0.
I am undefeated in record predictions since we started.
This is big.
This was a couple weeks in, so we didn't predict like the
This is like Groundhog Day. It's like going to determine if the Thunder have another week of winning or a week of a loss. What's it going to be?
I've been very complimentary. I've picked them to be undefeated, and you and I both picked that Trailblazers loss. It was second night of a back-to-back. We understood. I have them going 1-1 this week. You got to lose at some point, folks. And if they don't, then I'll be back here on Thursday or next Monday talking about how historic they are again. But I think they beat the Suns. I think they do inevitably match up against the Lakers. And I do think the Lakers take that game. I think that they're playing better basketball than they were earlier. I think that LeBron is a genuinely big addition for them, not just in the sense that he's LeBron, but from a matchup perspective, you're not only dealing with Luka Doncic now, you're dealing with Austin Reeves now. You're also dealing with LeBron, who, while he hasn't had the same production output this year, you got to stick a Jaylen Williams on him. And that means Jaylen Williams isn't on Luka. He isn't on these other guys. That's tough. They play really tough defense late. As I touched on, they have the offensive weapons to go win a game. Again, the Thunder beat the brakes off them a few weeks ago, but I think there's a lot of different variables. And most notably, is Shea 100%? We don't know. Lou Dort, an adductor strain. Aaron Wiggins, we don't want to speculate, but Aaron Wiggins missed a lot more time than Lou Dort has with the adductor strain. That would be a huge loss versus this Lakers team where he has traditionally had defensive success against all these guys, LeBron and Luka. Hartenstein would be a massive loss. If he's not going to play, he's probably not trending toward playing in that game. So I just think there's a few too many things, as you touched on. Caruso as well, against his former team, might not play, might get two, who knows? So I think there's a lot of variables in this one, at least more than the last game. And I think the Lakers keep it close and eventually get a small win over this Thunder team.
Yeah, I think that a lot of everything you said makes sense. And the only time I've been wrong about the record prediction was picking the Lakers to beat the Thunder on the second night of a back-to-back, and the Thunder trounced them. I'd rather be wrong in a different way than be wrong twice in the same way. So yeah. I'll go 2-0 for all that being said. But yeah, if they're there's just so much up in the air based upon who they're going to play and based upon the injury reports that I'll just lean 2-0 and see what happens. Now, how many fourth quarters does Shea play in? I'm going to go 1 because I don't think he's going to play against the Suns in the fourth quarter. And we don't know what's going to happen in the second game, but you would imagine it'll be more competitive. So I'm going to go with 1.
I'm going to say 2. I do think that the Suns game won't necessarily be that close, but it feels like one where he plays the entire third as he always does, but then he starts the fourth for like 2 minutes and then they take him out. That's my guess.
I like that. And then the biggest storyline at the end of the week, when it's all said and done, I'm going to say it's the NBA Cup is working, because if you get a foursome on Saturday that includes the Lakers, who are the Lakers and have the star power, the Thunder, who are 24-1 leading into that game, and the New York Knicks, who are the big market and they're true blue contenders, it doesn't even matter who wins the Florida Bowl. It's just going to be those three that carry the weight of what the NBA Cup signifies, to where I think that 3 years in, you'll have gotten the Lakers twice in the Vegas portion, which makes for the crowd atmosphere to be a lot better, which makes for the ratings to be a lot better. And you'll have gotten great basketball, at least on the Western Conference side of things. I think that they will be taking a victory lap over the NBA Cup, which had a lot of skeptics, which had a lot of detractors whenever it was first announced. And I think that now you're going to see everything has been working out. So long as they get Thunder Lakers, everything's been working out the last few years to get great basketball. The players have said the right things, and not just said the right things about caring and doing good PR for the league, but when you watch these games, there's a different level of intensity in these matchups than any other regular season game that is on the schedule. So from that aspect, it's been working. And I think that you're going to end up taking a victory lap for the league if the NBA Cup plays out how we think come Monday, and you get one of the Thunder Lakers against the Knicks for the Cup on Tuesday. I think that Monday will be a very big celebration for the league.
Yeah, I agree. I'm slowly becoming a Cup respecter. Like you said, these games are tough. Like they are like basically postseason level intensity games. So I agree. In line with my record prediction of 1-1 and a loss, a close loss to the Lakers, undermanned, by the way. I do have your earlier game one. I'm using it for the end of the week prediction because I think the Lakers, should they beat the Thunder, go on to win the NBA Cup in general. That'd be 2 out of 3 ultimate Cup respecters, the Los Angeles Lakers, and their real nice whistles. I think the end of the week prediction are the Lakers legitimate title contenders? And again, just as you said, I don't think this is a rightful storyline that we should be talking about, but should they go and beat the Spurs, the Thunder, and the Knicks in succession, even with a more favorable atmosphere for them, potential home crowds and postseason-esque whistles, I think this will be the talking point.
And Derek, it makes you think, if the Lakers pull this off, LeBron would have 6 championships. I mean, 2 of them are NBA Cup championships, but he'd have 6 championships. And then does that reinvent the GOAT debate? Does that reinvent how we talk about the GOAT? I'll tell you what it does reinvent. It'll be another line for Nick Wright to use on this podcast. Okay, that was a pot shot, Nick Wright. I love Nick Wright. Great Kansas Cityan. But, he is a LeBron guy. Just a little joke there. NBA burning questions, Derek. We have a couple to rapid fire through. We got 2 from each conference. Number 1. Are the Pistons legit to you, Derek?
They are legit to me, not only because they have a good and growing roster, but because they have one of the best players on planet Earth. Cade Cunningham is, I'm not saying he's a top 5 guy, but if he's playing like it every single night, what's the difference here, man? He's that good. He can score. He's a big guard. He defends better than a lot of other superstar-esque players. So I like Cade Cunningham, man. I think Detroit is real fun and real legit.
I agree. I love their defense, and I love Cade Cunningham, and I believe that they're legit with what they're putting on the floor in the regular season. I do wonder if perhaps it's a year too soon for them. And, the Thunder bucked that youthful trend last year. However, the year before, they had similar surprise success in the regular season. Like, nobody expected the Thunder to be the dome drums of the NBA, but also nobody expected the Thunder to be, a 57-win team and to be, or a 52-win team or whatever it was, and be the 1 seed in the Western Conference. And then they lost in the second round to Dallas, but still a very successful season, still a very competitive series with Dallas. Dallas goes on to the finals, and the Thunder the next year win the championship. The Pistons, for example, if they were to lose to the Cavs, like let's say the Cavs surge back, get that 4-5 matchup. They're a bit underseeded for their talent level, and then they beat the Pistons in the second round. That's not a failure, and that doesn't mean that the Pistons weren't legit and weren't legitimately good. They just didn't happen to go to the East Finals or go to the NBA Finals. So I could see that as like a low outcome for the Pistons, but the high outcome, they could legitimately make the East Finals, and they could legitimately make the NBA Finals, given how their defense is and given how they have a superstar in Cade Cunningham. And you look at our lockdown top 100 list from before the season. This is our top 10 of Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Luka, Curry, Edwards, Wemby, Brunson, Mitchell, Tatum. Then you had Cade Cunningham at 15, behind Durant, LeBron, Tyrese, and then AD. I think he's clearly climbing this list to be a top 10 player in the NBA for our next go around at this list next off season. But Pistons, I do believe, are legit, and you can take that however you want it to be. I think I'm going to tip my cards on this one. Derek, are the Cavs cooked?
I want you to go first because what is this verbiage we're using here? What's your idea?
I think that there's like a sky is falling, Chicken Little aspect of this season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They do not want to be in this predicament. They would much prefer to be a top 4 seed like we expected. They prefer to be the 1 seed again in the Eastern Conference. There is a little bit of this laissez-faire attitude with the Cavs right now, which I don't understand why. They don't play with a lot of urgency anymore, and they've seen some three-point production dip. But when it's all said and done, Derek, I mean, we see how fast life changes in the NBA, but in particular, how fast life changes in that Eastern Conference. I mean, the Bulls were the talk of the town. The Raptors were the talk of the town. The Heat were the talk of the town. The Sixers were surging. And now you look at it, and the Bulls are out of the play-in period. The Raptors have fallen back to the 4 seed, which is still good for them. But of course, they're not like on this incredible pace that they once were. They're only 5 games above 500, considering where we last were talking about them. And then the Cavs are 14 and 11. I think that the Cavs are going to get back to a home court advantage seed. You look at Boston. In 2 weeks, Boston goes from 11 to 3 in the East. It's still so early, and particularly in the East, where you have a lot of games where you can beat up on bad teams. Like the Cavs are going to be back as a top 3 seed in the East. I think that they might have done themselves in too much to reclaim the number 1 seed and probably even reclaim the number 2 seed. But I think they're going to be the 3 seed, and they're going to be in a position to make a run in the postseason. I think that all the, is it over for the Cavs? I think all that's a little bit overblown.
I agree. I mean, they're only 3.5 games out of the 3 seed right now.
Yeah, it's like they're going to get back there.
You touched on it. Toronto not playing as well as they were. The Heat, what do we make of them? The Magic, what do we make of them? By the way, Franz Wagner, okay, relative to what people thought. Great news. Super fun player. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a little overblown. And even if, let's say they lose several more games and they say, you know what, this roster isn't it. They're one of a few teams across the NBA who are truly positioned to make moves, reshuffle things, and still continue to be a contending level team. Maybe you do mix up the backcourt of Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Maybe you do mix up the front court and allow Evan Mobley to play the full-time 5. Like, they've got options. And even aside from those, I agree. I think they get back to it. I think they earn home court. And I think even potentially they could still go win a couple postseason series.
Yeah, I think that the Cavs are going to be just fine once we get to the end of the season. This was a question that's been raised on the last couple Locked On Mavs episodes. Derek, are the Mavs too good to tank?
Of course they are. The current iteration of the Mavs, of course they are. Look at these other teams league-wide right now. The New Orleans Pelicans, 3-21. Washington Wizards, 3-19. Indiana Pacers, sans Halliburton, 5-18. The Mavericks are not catching these teams, not with their current iteration. It's not going to happen. So they're going to have to offload some pieces for sure. And they're only getting healthier, which is a great thing for those players, but they're only going to get better at basketball. I guess it's really up to your version of tank. Like, top 10 pick, is that tanking? No. If they want to go get Darren Peterson, if they want to go get Cam Boozer, they're going to need to reshuffle that roster and sell off some pieces because they're much too good right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of ways to go about this and attack this question. If the Mavericks played out the season and didn't pull any levers, didn't make any trades, brought Kyrie back from injury at some point around the All-Star game, then yes, they are too good to tank with this group. The wise decision for that franchise, though, is going to be to tank, given that they control this year's pick and none of their picks in the future, including owing a pick to, surprisingly enough, Oklahoma City. So are they too good to tank? Technically. Are there ways for them to tank? Absolutely. Don't play AD. Don't bring Kyrie back. Trade PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and these guys here on the Najee Marshall. These like good role players. Trade them away, even if you take pennies on the dollar. It's whatever. Just you need to lose this year to keep that pick. You can even just send them home and kind of pull some levers that way. They're going to have to tank. But if their idea is just to play the season out and play it as is, then yeah, they're too good to tank. The problem is they're too bad to get to the play-in and to make the playoffs. So then you're just stuck in this purgatory here. You need to pick a direction if you're Dallas, and the direction should be to tank and to keep your pick. But yes, if you're just gonna say, you know what, interim GM here, hands off the team, let's just roll the dice and see what happens, you're gonna end up being stuck in this middle area, and that's not where you want to be if you're Dallas. The last question. Go ahead.
Just one more thing on Dallas too. We've talked about this in terms of Utah. If they are going to make a decision, they need to make one quickly, because the teams I just touched on, Pelicans, Wizards, Pacers, Clippers, for the Thunder, they have a legitimate head start. And even if the Mavericks, let's say they fire sale everything, they find landing spots for AD, Kyrie doesn't come back, they lose Gafford, Washington, Derek Lively can't get back in the rotation. That could still be a better team than the Washington Wizards. So if they're going to do something, they need to do it now so that they can get back on track. They can pass these teams like Brooklyn, Charlotte, Utah, who are also going to be making those moves to reposition themselves. They've kind of put themselves in a hole jumping out to a 9-16 start in and of itself.
Yeah, and I think that if you're Dallas, you have already lost the plot of being a bottom 3 team in the NBA. For sure, bottom 2 team. The Pacers playing a little bit better recently, but you've lost the plot on that. But with what you mentioned at the top of the show of the flattened lottery odds and the jumpers we see every single year in the lottery, you want to stay 9 or worse in the reverse standings to ensure that you can have a fighting chance to leap up again in the lottery. So the last one is a preview for tonight's show with Brandon Rabar. We're going to talk about contenders, and Brandon and I are going to attack this from an aspect of like listing out the ways that other teams can create advantages over OKC, and then how OKC can counter those and where that kind of leaves the contender field. But we're going to attack this from a different angle, Derek. I'm going to ask you, can anyone stop the Thunder but themselves? Like, technically speaking, the Thunder could get hurt at the wrong time. They could go through a devastatingly bad shooting series, even though last year they weren't very good from 3 and they still won. Let's just kind of leave that on the table. What if they just go ice cold from all 3 levels as an offense and they just cannot hit anything? Like, technically, those things can happen because it's sports and because sports can be random. But if the Thunder are playing to their B+ or better output and they're playing to their level and they're healthy, can anyone just outright beat Oklahoma City besides themselves?
I've talked about this before where I'm kind of tired of beating around the bush with this team. Like, they're 23-1. They haven't even had their entire roster healthy yet. I'm just sick of like dancing around like, well, I want to keep the Nuggets in play. I want to keep the Rockets in play. Maybe there's an Eastern Conference team. Honestly, to answer your question, probably not. They're the best constructed team in basketball right now. They have a bevy of assets that if absolutely anything went wrong, they could problem solve immediately. They have what many people consider the best player in the world playing his best basketball of all time. If not, he is at absolute minimum the second best player in the world. They have an all-time defense. They've got 2 other all-star level guys. Probably not. They're probably gonna go get these wins in the postseason. And if they get beat, it probably will be themselves. And even that would probably take a gargantuan effort from whoever they're playing. So I don't know. Again, I'm kind of tired of dancing around it. Let's just call a spade a spade. This is the best team in basketball, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Look, I'm a Denver guy. I love the Nuggets.
Same.
Don't care for the metal water bottles, but I love the Nuggets, and I love what they've done this offseason, and I love Jokic. And I get accused on this very show among the commenters who listen to this show, whomst I love. I get accused of being a Jokic glazer. I don't know how you can glaze one of the best players to ever play the game, but all that shoved to the side for a second. The bottom line is this Thunder team is inevitable. This Thunder team is going to win a championship, boring them, beating themselves. And even like, think about this for a second. And why I'm sick of beating around the bush as you are. Last year, they were 13th out of 16th in 3-point percentage. There's not a lot of room to fall there. There's not a lot of room to be worse than that. Their half-court offense at times was abysmal in the postseason. They completely botched and gave away 2 game ones on their home floor in the playoffs to the Denver Nuggets, who were their most threatening team. They just gave them a game in game 1 in a 7-game series on their home floor. To the Indiana Pacers, collapsing in game 1, and Halliburton hits the shot. And they still won. With all that being said, not great half-court offense, bad shooting, giving away games, literally giving them away. And they still hang the banner, and they still have the Larry O'Brien trophy in OKC. Hello, in a way, they beat themselves last year too, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And Chet Holmgren was coming back from a fractured hip. I know he played, but you assume, like, again, knocking on wood, hoping everyone's healthy from both sides, by the way, because Denver was hurt in that second round series when you know what happened to Halliburton in game 7. Hoping everybody's hurt and it's a level playing field. Hoping everybody's healthy and it's a level playing field. Hoping everybody's healthy and it's a level playing field. Chet's going to be a lot better than he was in the postseason. These guys have gotten more confident. These guys have gotten better. We've talked for a quarter of the season now about all the ways the Thunder have internally improved. They're just simply better. They're leaps and bounds better than the rest of the NBA. And it is what it is. I mean, it just is going to happen. And you can, pick what side of history you want to be on at the end of it. But Derek, let's hand out our technical fouls and get out of here. My technical foul goes to the Utah Jazz game ops people.
That's a technical foul.
I mean, this was brutal, Derek. This was brutal. I've seen less smoke clouds at a Grateful Dead concert than what happened last night with the pyrotechnics flaring off on the backboard. Listen, Jazz, you don't need pyrotechnics. You're a 10-win team, buddy. Let's wrap up the pyrotechnics. There's no need for a malfunction on the smoke machine on the backboard when you're winning 20-something games a year. Wrap it up until you get back to the playoffs, okay? So the two different smoke detectors going off in the arena and the pyrotechnics failing. Then, not only does the clock malfunction, like, okay, that's happened before. Everybody's dealt with a clock malfunction. We had that happen at Cameron University in Lawton. And if it can happen to the Fighting Aggies, it can happen to anybody. I've often said that. But the fact that they didn't have portable scoreboards to put in the corners, and that for a segment of an NBA game, we're keeping time with the officials and at the table, and we're announcing the time over the PA like we're in the Eisenhower High School gymnasium. What are we doing? Like, you're an NBA club. You're an NBA franchise, and you don't have the portable scoreboards to put in the corners. I mean, we had that at the Lawton Fort Sill Cavs games in the CBA. Michael Ray Richardson, RIP, NBA CBA champions, no big deal. But what are we doing with Utah? Bad ops, bad team. It's over.
That's a technical foul.
I commend your technical foul. I do think pyrotechnics mid-game could be a later addition. I'm not saying the Utah Jazz need to be busting it out, but it was a pretty fun experience for me to watch the fire go off during a Chet Holmgren free throw. My technical foul of the week goes to the Brooklyn Nets.
That's a technical foul.
The Brooklyn Nets have won 3 of 4 games. They have won 4 out of 6 in their last 10. This is a team that so badly needs to tank. And Rylan, no one has more stock in the Nets winning games than me, because we made our bet between the Nets and the Wizards that the Nets would be better. I thought that, and they have been. I didn't want that to be the case. This needs, more than almost anybody, to be a team that goes and grabs one of those top 3 guys. Right now, they have the 6th best draft odds behind the Essential Hawks, Wizards, Pacers, the Thunder, and the Kings. Brooklyn, you just drafted Yegor Dioman, and you can't figure out how to lose games.
Bad.
You're sticking all these guys. Danny Wolf's been awesome lately, by the way. He's so sick. Just go lose games. I knew this roster would be too good to be one of the worst teams in the league coming into it, and they've proven me right.
I mean,
Terrence Mann is an
Michael
NBA
Porter
player.
Jr.'s been too good. Yeah, that's true.
He's averaging 28 points
Michael Porter
per
Jr.'s
game.
been good. Their young players have not been good.
This is the whole reason I made the bet, is because MPJ, Cam Thomas, Terrence Mann, and Nick Claxton are NBA players. So you got to get them out of here.
Speaking of getting him out of here, Coach Dennis.
That's a technical foul.
Oh, no.
My Sixers are not a sad team.
I dispute this.
You ever heard of Tyrese Maxey leading the league in minutes, putting on a show? You ever heard of VJ Edgecombe put back game winner? You ever heard of a heart and grit? There's no team that plays with more guts and grit. I mean, they're fighting their guts out against the old Golden State Warriors the other day in those sleek, slick, throwback black uniforms and the amazing court that they have. You know what? My Sixers are not sad. My Sixers are not even a lottery team. They're 5-5 of the last 10 games. They're sitting here with the 18th record in the NBA. They're 3 games above 500, my Sixers, by the way. And it's just getting started for my Sixers. VJ Edgecomb's going to bounce back. Tyrese Maxey, ever heard of him? MVP candidate. No big deal. How many teams have an MVP candidate, Derek? Not very many, but my Sixers do. Here they come. Philadelphia on the run. Stand up and cheer. Sixers.
Technical foul.
This is being disputed by the league office. This is not technical foul worthy. This was a team that Rylan had picked to do great things this year.
Stop. This is a mischaracterization. I'm not going to let you spin zone this. The spin stops here. The buck stops here. Look it up. When you look at the Sixers, I said, I've never once in the history of taking over the show in May 2020, no big deal, big anniversary coming up. I've never once picked against them to be a top 3 seed in the East.
What anniversary? Oh, you're just yapping, dude. You are just yapping.
6 years. 6 years is a long time.
In May, that's 7 months away.
It's coming up. I mean, God willing, we're all going to be here to see it, aren't we? God willing. Listen, I picked against them to be a top 3 seed. I picked them to be a 6 to 8 seed, which is not picking them to do big things. Oh, big Derek. Oh, big Derek. Going to pick them to do big things. That's another reference to a show we can't name anymore because it's gotten taken away. But if you know the reference, look it up. Anyway, big fun. Big fun for the Sixers. Big fun for the Sixers. I didn't pick them to do great things. I picked them to do exactly what they're doing. They're vindicating me. And by the way, Derek, if you want to throw stones from a glass house over there, bucko, you picked the Hornets to be better than my Sixers. How's that working out for you? The Hornets are 10 games below 500. The Sixers, 3 games above 500. How about until you get to 500 and Con Knipple over there is a top 5 MVP like Tyrese Maxey? How about you just sit over there and say, good job, Sixers?
Listen, Hornets, they're climbing. Sixers, they're falling. You better hope
they're climbing from the 7th ring of HE double hockey sticks to the 6th. They're not climbing anywhere.
Hey, they're 5-7 at home. Okay. Con Knipple, rookie of the year favorite. They'll be okay.
Rookie of the year favorite.
Yeah.
Cooper's coming on in a big way, buddy. You better watch out. You better wash your mouth out with soap the way you've disrespected my Mavs and my Sixers, I should say. Floridian slip there. Floridian slip there. That's not good. That's
my Mavs. Oh no.
Freudian slip. My Sixers.
Clip that.
My Sixers. Don't clip that yet. No, my Sixers, my Suns. I'm already getting hate for the Suns. My Suns, by the way, Suns also better than people thought, which I said. And I'm going to say this. I've never said this in the history of my life about a team. Are you ready for this breaking news? I mean, we're an hour and 9 minutes into the show. So I think that anyone who's still listening has to forgive me for saying this. I'm going to make this a rule. Nothing said after the 1 hour and 8 minute mark on any podcast that I'm ever a part of counts against me in a court of law. I'm going to say this. Not only are they my Suns, we haven't even seen Jaylen Green play yet. We're going to wait for Jaylen Green to get back, and then we are taking the league by storm with my Suns defense, my Sixers and Tyrese Maxey back.
Let's keep tabs on where the Suns are at pre Jaylen Green and where the Suns are at post Jaylen Green, because I think there's a real good chance once he is assimilated back into the starting lineup, they maybe fall in the standings.
Can I ask you a question, Derek?
Sure. I bet I'm about to hear about the shackles of Şengün again.
You need to be freed from the shackles of Şengün. Does it help a team? I'm just curious. I mean, you seem to know much more. Does it help a team if they get back a 29-point scorer who has 3 assists and 3 rebounds a game and
score?
And
29. We're counting one game sample size now. We're counting one.
He only played in one game. He's only completed one game so far.
Has he? Is that true?
He's only completed one game.
You said he's only played in one game.
He's only played from start to finish in one game. He got hurt in the second game. And by the way, in that second game, that second game of a 7-minute sample size, he already filled up 2 points in the column and a rebound and an assist. So stat sheet stuffer per 36. Trust the nerds. Trust the spreadsheets. Jaylen Green back. My Suns back. My Sixers back. Me back.
I'm going to go ahead and take the hundreds of game sample size we have from him in Houston absolutely chucking. I hate that you made me a Jaylen Green hater because I like Jaylen Green.
I made you a hater. You just took the low-hanging fruit whenever he was in Houston Rockets on SI boy of saying, oh, Şengün's so much better. No, Jaylen Green, when he's back, he's going to show you. He's going to show you who he is.
Let's check on my my Şengün take, by the way. What'd I say? 7th in
top 7 MVP, which I mean Maxey's ahead of him. My guy Maxey's ahead of him right now.
Okay, well that wasn't part of it.
It wasn't part of it. I'm just letting you know.
3, 4, 5,
I'm an informant. I'm an informant.
He's at 11. 4 more spots. Oh, come on, Houston Rockets.
Yeah, okay. Well, Derek, this has been fun. This has been a nice spirited pod. We really got going at the end. Derek,
If half of us did.
you know how to work me up. Pause. Derek, you have something very, very important for our listeners to go check out tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a potential NBA mock draft dropping Tuesday, December 9th. If not Tuesday, it will be up Wednesday for sure. It's going to be in the next 2 days, but I'm going to try to hold myself to it to get it done before tomorrow. There's a question real early in this live stream from James. At each tier, who are the most thundery draft picks? Spoiler alert. Woo, we're late in the spot. Minute 12, hour 12. There's 4 first-round Thunder picks in that. So that is about a pick per tier. So go ahead and check that out on YouTube, Derek-Parker, when it's up. You can see who I think the most thundery players in each tier are. And minor spoiler too, they jump up on the lottery with the Clippers pick. And they don't need to jump up far to get a good player.
Jump in it. Derek, go check that out on the Derek-Parker YouTube feed, where you should get all your draft coverage from, because he's the best in the biz covering the draft. Subscribe to Locked On Thunder anywhere you get your podcast from. Check out our new Everydayer Club. You can find that information in the show description, both on YouTube and your podcasting platform. Until next time, folks, be good and be good to one another.